Now we just saw that there is a due to the call option embedded in the bond, there can be lesser interest rate risk. So let's see what are the what is this graph talk about. Okay, so this red one is the value of an option free bond, which we saw. Okay, that it is a convex. As yield decreases, the price increases. Okay, now I said that when the call price is, let's say this callable price is 102. Okay, this callable price is 102. Will you buy a bond when the issuer can call back at 102? Will you buy the bond at a price which is more than 102? Definitely not, right? So if somebody comes to you and say that, boss, buy the bond at 110, you will say no. If I buy the bond, issuer can call the bond at 102 and I will suffer a loss of $8. Okay, so what happens is, this is a value of option free bond. For a bond with embedded option, it will follow this path. Okay, that is, the price cannot be more than the call price. So this price of the bond, what it is being shown is, instead of following this positive convexity, this follows a negative convexity. That is, as yield decreases, the price, it increases but at a very decreasing rate, or it flattens out. So it cannot be more than the $102. So this is a price. This price is of a value of a callable bond. Okay, this is a value of an option free bond. So the difference between these two, so let's say the yield is this. Okay, so the callable bond price is this much. So this is the callable bond price. This is the and this total is the price of a option free bond. So can I say that the difference is the value of the call option, or the price of the call option? Okay, so this is the impact due to the call option, that is, it decreases the value of a callable bond. Okay, in case of puttable bond, it is exactly the opposite. In case of puttable bond, what happens is, the price of the bond is capped from below. That is, it will not decrease below the put price. Okay, so it will not. So the value of the puttable bond will be the difference between these two. So that will be the put option value. Okay, so the presence of this call and put option, it decreases the price of a callable bond. Okay, but it increases the price of a puttable bond. Okay, now we will see another interpretation of duration. Okay, duration, we saw that it is a measure of interest rate risk. Okay, I can also say that duration is a measure of price sensitivity of a bond with the change in yield. Okay, which we will see that duration is being mentioned as the percentage change in the price of the bond when the yield changes by 1%. So if the yield has changed by 1% and the bond price, if the yield has changed by 1% and the bond price has changed by 10%, what people will say that duration is equal to 10% by 1%, or the duration will be equal to 10. Okay, usually when the yield increases, that is, it is plus, the price will decrease, because when the yield increasing, there is a negative relationship, the price will decrease. So duration is being mentioned as negative of the value. So negative of negative 10 by plus positive 10. So the formula for duration is minus of the percentage change in bond price by yield change in percentage. Please note that both should be in percentage, both should be in the same unit. Okay. Now for a portfolio, the duration is the weighted average of the individual duration of a bond. Okay, so similar to the portfolio return, it is like, for a portfolio, if there are 5 bonds, each of them have different duration. Depending on the weight, the current market value divided by the total market value of the portfolio, the duration will be decided. Okay. But it exposes us to one more thing, that is, we are saying that duration is measured as a percentage change when yield changes by some number. Okay, But when a portfolio has bonds of different maturity, okay, when there is a parallel shift in the yield curve, okay. Now what is meant by parallel shift in the yield curve? So let's say this is the initial yield curve. What is yield curve? Yield curve is the plottation of the yield with respect to the time. As we have seen that there, due to the maturity risk premium, the yield required on a bond of 10-year maturity will be more than a bond of 5-year maturity. Okay, typically that is the case. Okay, but we can have other cases also. So what happens is, this is the initial yield curve. This is the initial yield curve, and what can happen is there can be an increase in the yield across all the maturity. Let's say there is an increase by let's say it was 5%, and there is a 1% increase across all the maturity. So all the maturity yield has increased by 1%. Okay. So since this is a parallel shift in the yield curve, duration is very easily calculated. For a portfolio, you can easily calculate. That is, what is the change in the portfolio value? So what is the percentage change in the portfolio value by percentage change in the yield? But what can happen is, there is a non-parallel shift in the yield curve. There can be a situation when the yield curve shift is not parallel. Okay. So what I meant by non-parallel shift is, if you see for this maturity, the yield curve has shifted by this point. Let's say it's 2%. Okay. But for this maturity, yield curve has shifted by only 0.5%. Okay. So due to this, the price change of bond of this maturity will be more than this maturity, because what I can say is, percentage change in the bond price can be written as percentage change in bond price, percentage of delta P can be written as minus of duration into del Y. Okay. So bonds are exposed to what is called as non-parallel shift in the curve, yield curve, and that is called as the yield curve risk. Okay. So we spoke about yield curve risk. So this is the yield curve risk. That is, non-parallel shift in the yield curve is known as the yield curve risk. Okay. Now we spoke in the reading 60 that prepayment can be done by the bond issuer. Okay. So what are the disadvantages that prepayment has on the bond holder? Okay. As I said that you had invested considering that every year you will get some coupon, after 5 years you will get $100 as the face value, but because of prepayment there is uncertainty, it is there on the timing of the cash flow. So you got all your money. Okay, so you are not getting $10 at a periodic interval. So there is uncertainty on the timing of the cash flow. Okay. Also, the next one is, bonds are usually called, or people usually prepay when the interest rate decreases. Okay. Why when the interest rate decreases? People can issue another bond at a lower interest rate, right? So they can prepay. Usually when you are taken a home loan, what you will do is, you have taken from State Bank, you will go to ICICI Bank, get the issuance at a lower rate and prepay. So what is happening is, the bond investor or the bank is left with money to invest at a lower rate, because the market rate has decreased. So what happens is, since the market rate has decreased, he is not able to get the earlier rate which he was promised. He is getting lesser. So what he is exposed to is exposed to reinvestment risk. We'll see that what is this reinvestment risk in the next slide. Okay. Also, in case of callable bond, when the interest rate decreases, the price appreciation is capped. So you are not getting the price appreciation which you should have got. So let's see this diagram. If the bond did not have any callable option, that is, bond was not a callable bond, it was a straight bond, so the price would have become this much. Okay. when the interest rate has been this. But due to the presence of a call, you are getting only this price. So this benefit you are losing because of callable option. Okay. So for an investor, he is not getting this price appreciation. So this price appreciation is lost. Okay. So these are the disadvantages of prepayment. Okay. Now let's see what is reinvestment risk. Okay. So reinvestment risk is the risk of investing the money that is received as coupon. Either you receive the money as coupon or the prepayment at a lower rate than what you thought when you had invested in the other bond. Okay. Okay. So you will face more reinvestment risk. So this is in red, that means you should be concerned. Okay. So you face more in reinvestment risk when the coupon payment is more, right? So there are two bonds. So let's say there are two bonds. One bond pays coupon of $5 and one bond pays coupon of $10. Okay. So if the interest rate decreases in the market, you are getting only $5 from the one bond, but you are getting $10 from the second bond. So what is happening is you have to invest $10 at a lower rate. So your reinvestment risk is more. Okay. Your reinvestment risk is more when the bonds are callable. That is, bonds can be called back by the bond issuer. Okay. When the bond is amortizing bond, that is along with coupon. So you have two bonds. One bond pays only coupon, but one bond pays coupon plus principal, right? So you have more money to invest at a lower rate. So when bond is amortizing bond, it pays this and you are faced with more investment risk. Okay. And when the prepayment options are present, prepayment options like callable is a kind of prepayment option, but let's say accelerated sinking fund provision is present. Okay. So that is increasing the risk. Or in case of amortizing bond, you say that okay, when the interest rate falls, more and more amortization, more and more people will prepay. Okay. So when the prepayment option is present, you were thinking that you will get your money after 5 years. That is, you will get $100 as the principal after 5 years. But what is happening is you have got now. Okay. So you are forced to invest this $100 now and at a rate which is much lower than what you had expected. So this is the reinvestment risk. Okay. Please make a note of all these 4 points. Okay. Now we will see what is credit risk and what are the credit rating. Okay. We know that the yield of a risky bond should be more than the yield of a risk-free bond. Okay. So credit spread is the measure which is the difference between the yield of this risky and risk-free bond. Okay. So the credit spread is the difference between yield of risky and risk-free bond. Now the higher the credit spread, okay, the more risky the bond is. So let's say there is a risk-free bond trading at 5%. There are two bonds. One bond is trading at 7%. Okay. So the credit spread of this bond is 2%. Correct? Then there is another bond trading at 9%. The credit risk of this bond is, the credit spread of this bond is 4%. Okay. So what can be said about the price? Okay. So since this yield is more, the price will be lesser. So its price is lesser than this price. Okay. So as a result, I can say that the credit spread, larger credit spread will mean that there is a decrease in the price. Okay. So what will happen is there is a concept called credit spread risk. The credit spread risk is that what will happen when the credit spread will increase. When credit spread increases, the price falls. Okay. So credit spread risk is the risk that credit spread will increase. Okay. Now usually what happens is there are bonds they have to get some ratings by the rating agencies. Okay, so you will find that a bond which is risk is very less, it is will be given a triple A rating. That is, there is very less chance of getting this bond default. Okay, now you will find the S&P ratings like this: triple A, double A, triple B, like this. Okay, and in between this double A they also specify like double A plus or double A minus. Okay, within this they specify double A plus or double A minus. Okay, up till triple B the ratings given, they are called as investment grade. That is, these bonds can be invested, money can be invested in this bond. The probability of default is less. Okay, but then the ratings below triple B like BB, B, triple C, double C, C, these bonds are called as junk bonds. Okay, so these bonds are junk bonds. You should not invest in these bonds. Okay, also there is a term called high yield bonds. That is, these bonds will be giving you high yield. So let's say if the triple A bond yield is, let's say, 5.5%, okay, the yield of triple B bond would be, let's say, around 7%. Okay, the yield of triple C bond would be around, let's say, 10%. So what is happening is, as the rating is going from triple A to triple B to triple C, the yield is increasing or the credit spread is increasing. Okay, so it might happen that due to deteriorating fundamentals of a company, the bond can be downgraded by the rating agency. So the bond can be downgraded by the rating agencies. Okay, so that risk is called as downgrading risk or downgrade risk. Because when a downgrading happens, the yield increases and the price decreases. Okay, so this downgrade risk decreases the price. Credit spread risk, it also decreases the price. Okay, if it, so downgrade will increase the credit spread. Okay, similarly interest rate risk. Interest rate risk, when interest rate increases, the price decreases. Okay, so that decreases the price. So that is a risk. Okay, so please be comfortable with what is credit risk. Credit risk is a type of a default risk. Okay, credit rating are the rating given by the bond rating agencies, and they usually have these rating investment grade. Okay, these are the investment grade up to triple B. These are speculative, high yield or junk bonds, and then there is a grade called default grade, that is D, that is bond is in default. Okay, that is company has gone bankrupt, default, they have not paid the coupon payment. Okay, so that is a bond can be in default also.